Have you ever wondered how the Israel-Palestine conflict began? It all traces back to the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when Jewish and Arab nationalist movements started to take shape. These movements were fueled by a deep-seated desire for a homeland, a place of their own. The game changer, however, came in 1917 with the Balfour Declaration. The British government, who held sway in the region, announced their support for the creation of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, then under Ottoman rule. This was the beginning of a century-long conflict that is still unresolved today. The conflict escalated into a series of wars and uprisings, or intifadas. The first of these was the Arab-Israeli War, or the War of Independence, from 1947 to 1949. After World War II, the United Nations proposed a partition plan for Palestine, recommending separate Jewish and Arab states. The Jewish leadership accepted this plan, but the Arab states did not. As a result, when Israel declared independence in 1948, neighboring Arab states invaded. This war resulted in Israel gaining control of more territory than initially allotted. Next came the Suez Crisis in 1956, when Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal. Israel, the United Kingdom, and France launched a military operation in Sinai. However, under international pressure they withdrew, and the canal remained under Egyptian control. Fast forward to 1967, and we find ourselves in the midst of the Six-Day War. This conflict saw Israel launch a preemptive strike against Egypt, Syria, and Jordan, capturing the Sinai Peninsula, the Golan Heights, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. This war significantly reshaped the territorial configuration of the conflict. In 1973, the Yom Kippur War broke out. Egypt and Syria launched a surprise attack on Israel on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in Judaism. Israel, however, repelled the attacks, and a ceasefire was negotiated. This takes us to the First Intifada from 1987 to 1993, a series of protests and acts of civil disobedience against Israeli occupation initiated by Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. The Oslo Accords in 1993 led to the establishment of the Palestinian Authority and a process for future negotiations. The Second Intifada spanned from 2000 to 2005, a period of intensified violence, with Palestinian suicide bombings and Israeli military operations, resulting in significant casualties on both sides. In 2005, Israel unilaterally withdrew its troops and settlements from the Gaza Strip, although it maintained control over its borders, airspace, and waters. This became known as the Gaza Strip disengagement. Each of these events has left a profound imprint on the Israel-Palestine conflict, shaping the realities on the ground today. The conflict has continued into the 21st century, with new developments and ongoing issues. A significant event was Operation Protective Edge in 2014, a major conflict in Gaza triggered by rocket attacks into Israel. This confrontation led to a high number of casualties and widespread destruction in Gaza. Since then, the conflict has ebbed and flowed, with periods of relative calm interrupted by flare-ups, clashes, and heightened tensions. The period up to September 2021 was no exception, marked by periodic unrest and recurring flashpoints. The key issues at the heart of the conflict remain unresolved. The status of Jerusalem is a particularly contentious point. Both Israelis and Palestinians lay claim to the city, and any changes to its status could ignite further tensions. The borders of a future Palestinian state are another sticking point. Palestinians seek a sovereign state in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, with East Jerusalem as its capital. However, the expansion of Israeli settlements in the West Bank complicates this aspiration. The right of return for Palestinian refugees is a further source of contention. Many Palestinians displaced during the wars of 1948 and 1967, and their descendants demand the right to return to their former homes, a demand Israel rejects. Lastly, Israel's security concerns cannot be overlooked. The country is wary of potential threats from militant groups and insists on stringent security measures, which Palestinians often view as oppressive. These issues continue to fuel the conflict, keeping it at the forefront of international politics. The Israel-Palestine conflict is a complex and deeply rooted dispute that has spanned over a century. It's a story woven with threads of nationalism, religious convictions, and territorial claims. It began with the emergence of Jewish and Arab nationalist movements in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, leading to wars, intifadas, and ongoing tensions. Today, the conflict is marked by key issues such as the status of Jerusalem, the borders of a future Palestinian state, the right of return for Palestinian refugees, and security concerns for Israel. Understanding this history is crucial for comprehending the present and working towards a peaceful resolution in the future.